here at Crafty Hope. Welcome. I am about to work on the week 9 Jessie James Bead Summer Bead Blast Challenge. This is a 15-week challenge that they have set up, and every week there's a different theme. Now, as a design ambassador, I've been assigned several different weeks in which to participate, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I have been doing the challenges every week because I think it is a great way to get inspired to make something maybe I wouldn't have thought of making, or to use these beads in a different way. So this is one of my assigned weeks. Week 9's theme is out of the jewelry box, which means to make a piece of beaded something that isn't like jewelry, like isn't something you would wear, isn't a necklace, bracelet, earring, ring, whatever, something that you would normally keep in your jewelry box. So, but it could still be considered, I suppose, jewelry, because what I decided I'm going to make is a car sun catcher. Now, I have made a sun catcher before with some of my Jessie James beads. I'll put a link up here to that tutorial if you want a different one. But when I opened this Lemon Yellow Sun mini bead mix, or mini mix, there were these beautiful little crystals, and I immediately was like, I want to highlight that crystal somehow. So as I was thinking on, I was like, oh, I could do a car dangle. What do you call those? Because I've seen them as car dangles, car rear view mirror charms, things like that. What would you call it? I've been kind of trying to figure out. Now, I don't normally keep one in my car because they tend to be distracting, but I thought if I made it smaller, I could still get that beautiful spectrum of light, but still have something pretty in my car. Bonus too, I remembered, because I'm using this Lemon Yellow Sun, I remembered that I had these yellow beads that look like lava beads. Now, I can't confirm that they are lava, but I am going to assume that they are, and I can put essential oils in those in my car as an air freshener. Y'all, score, bonus. Super excited about this. So like I said, I'm using the Lemon Yellow Sun mix. I'm also using the Lavender Lemonade mix, and brought these together to make a design. So I've got a general idea you can see here, and I thought I'd pop on and let y'all take a look. Now, before I proceed, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that next week's challenge is called Raise the Bar. And that is to create a jewelry piece with a wire bar element. So that starts on July 31st. But for the rest of this week, we're working on out of the jewelry box designs. All right. So this is, like I said, not something I've ever made before. So it's going to be a little experimental. We'll see how it goes. I laid out my beads the way I think I want them. I've got some 20 gauge wire and some 26 gauge wire that I'm going to be working with. So I'm going to start with my 20 gauge wire here and get a length of it, and we'll see if it works. And I am going to get that beautiful crystal that I mentioned before and put it through the bead just a little bit, like I would if I were going to wrap a bralette. So I have put it through the bead and turned that up. So I've got a little bit of a tail. I'm going to cross these a little bit, bend this one out, this one up, so that that shorter one's been out. And I'm going to grab some pliers to hold it. And I am just going to do a twist or two with that tail around that longer wire to secure it. Just like so. So once that is there, I'm going to trim it like so. And I'm not even going to be concerned about tuck. Well, I'm going to tuck it just because it's one of those things I have to do. I'm compelled to do it. So I've made just a little wrapped loop there, or wrap there, and I'm going to take this bead from the Lavender Lemonade mix. Look at all those sparkles. I think they will be perfect. And I'm going to slide that down. Now that will hide some of our wrapping and some of that. And then I've got one of those yellow, looks like a lava bead, I'm going to assume it is, and slide it down. It doesn't cover that wrap as much as I had hoped. So I am actually going to see if I can move that wrap down some without hurting everything else. I'm going to compress it a little bit more, move it, squash it, do what I need to do so that that should have wrapped it just a tad bit closer to the bead. So lesson learned, that's something you get to know in advance if you are going to make something like this. And that should work a little bit better. So I've slid that little rhinestone bead on, and now that's still not quite what I want. Oh my goodness, y'all. I may try that again. See, this is why you get to watch my mistakes, so maybe you don't make the same mistake. So I'm going to take off that wrap, if I can, as carefully as possible, because I really don't want to hurt this crystal. But bonus, if I do, I have the second one in here that came in that mix, because that mix was plentiful. This little tiny container held so many beads, y'all. And y'all, I have to laugh because Lemon Yellow Sun, I don't know where they got the name, but I automatically think of the Pearl Jam song, Jeremy, which is one of my jams. So I grew up in the 90s, was in high school in the 90s and college in the late 90s. And yeah, so Pearl Jam was definitely my jam. All right, so I'm going to try this again. Cross this maybe just a little bit closer to that bead. So I've made that cross a little bit closer. I'm going to hold it again because I really don't want to touch that crystal. And I'm only going to do one good solid wrap, I think, to try to keep it, yeah, as close as possible, and then trim that off. Okay, hopefully that works. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. And there. Oh, please, please. Let's see how we do. We'll slide our pretty crystal down, and we'll slide our lava bead down. And yes, that is so much better. I don't know if you can tell, but I can tell. It moves still, but this lava bead fits in there just a little bit better, so there's no gaping, like a big gap. All right, so what I'm going to do from there is take my round nose pliers and make an actual wrap loop to secure all of this. So I do have a tutorial on making wrap loops. I will link that above, but you can take round nose pliers, hold it at your bead, bend at a 90-degree angle. I lift it just a little bit so I can slide that up. Now, remember with your round nose pliers, if you want to make a little loop, you do it down here. If you make a big loop, you do it up here. So I kind of want a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go up and around, adjust my pliers, and then go under. And then with that tail there, I'm going to take it and wrap until it touches that lava bead and secures it. All right. So from there, I will take my wire cutters again, trim it, and then chain nose pliers to tuck it. Alright guys, the next thing I'm going to do is something I have a tutorial on, so I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking my way through it. I will link to the tutorial up there, but I am going to make a beaded flower. So what I have here are 10, I believe, of the little tiny opaque yellow crystals from that Lemon Yellow Sun mix, and this little rondelle from the Lavender Lemonade mix. And what I'm going to do, I've got my 26 gauge wire, and I'm going to put all 10 of these crystals, or these little yellow ones, let's say the yellow ones, since they're both kind of crystally. I'm going to put all 10 yellow ones on here, and that way I can count and make sure I have 10, because what you want is an even number. I think in my tutorial I only use 6, but I kind of want to show you that you can do it with more. And we're going to make a flower because I like flowers, especially like daisies and zinnias and ones like that. Okay, so I'm going to pull that down center-ish, make a circle like so, kind of form it as best I can into round, and then I'm going to slip on my other crystal, and actually I'm doing the wrong thing. I'm gonna make sure I get one of those twisted up and one down. This is my own tutorial. and I'm messing it up. Okay, now I will put my crystal on and insert it into that loop we made. Find the center here and reinsert my wire and wrap it up. Pushing, pushing, pushing and pulling. All right, like so. So I have this, it kind of looks like a crystal, like a daisy or a flower of some kind, and I love that. So I'm going to make another wrapped loop like here, and again use my round nose pliers, bend up and around, and like so, and like that loosened up somehow. I think that's on this end. Okay. So before I close that loop, I'm going to slip on this crystal so it has some movement, and take my chain nose pliers, and I keep switching between chain nose. I've got these tweezer nose ones, and then I've got some regular ones, and I just swap between them. Now I'm using the 26 gauge wire on this because these crystals are so small, and I need that wire to be fairly pliable and movable to wrap everything and get it to move the way I want it to move. So that's why I use a thinner gauge wire on that. Okay, once that's wrapped, I'm going to trim it, cut it, tuck it, like so, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So, round nose pliers, make sure everything's nice and tight, and make my wrapped loop. And again, this one I'm not going to open because I can do that on this last one. And so I will wrap and wrap and wrap, making sure it is all nice and tight, adjusting as needed. This is going to be something I'm so excited about, putting this in my car. All right. And the beauty of Jesse James beads is there are a ton of different beads, and so you could go with any of your favorite colorways. It doesn't have to be this yellow and violet that I'm doing. All right, so my little piece here that I'm going to do is I'm going to use some more of that 20 gauge wire, like so. I'm going to go ahead and cut that, and I'm cutting way more than I need, and that's just kind of my jam. And I'm using some fairly inexpensive wire that I have because this is going in my car, and I don't, you know, it's probably going to have outside, you know, things, you know, in it. So dust and pollen and all that get in my car more than anything else. So I'm not super concerned about if the wire's the most expensive wire. All right, so I'm going to make another wrap loop. This time I'm forming the loop first. So I'm going to bend my wire, go up and around, and I'm going to go ahead and attach this. I'll open it and attach it to my little flower link here, and then use my chain nose pliers to close it, hold my loop, and wrap. And I don't have to wrap a whole lot of times, just enough to make sure it's secured, especially with that little tiny wire there. I want to make sure it's secure. All right, because it's going to do some bouncing around in my car. Not that I drive crazy, but, you know, I do have an unpaved driveway out here in the country. All right, so the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put down this, this is a pretty little flower bead from the Lavender Lemonade. Actually, this one and this beautiful crystal here came from the Lavender Lemonade. So I'll put those two there and then top it with another one of those lava lake beads. So we've got this beautiful little mix, this little stack. And then I will do another wrapped loop. Now also this cheap wire is fine too because I'm going to be adding those essential oils on there, and so not sure, I don't think this will tarnish the way that maybe some finer wire will. Alright, so I am going to finish this with my wrapped loop like so, and trim it. And I know you're questioning now. You're like, how are you going to attach that to rear view mirror in your car? Just hold on. Now this is, again, this is an experiment for me. I've never made one of these, but my thought was everybody's rear view mirrors fashioned a little differently, made a little differently. You need something that's kind of adjustable and stretchy. So I looked in my stash and found that I have this elastic silvery thread. This is something I probably got in a thrift haul. Oh, it's got a bead in it. Yeah. I probably got while thrifting, but you can buy stuff like this, any kind of elastic. I've seen it at the dollar store in the bead section. You can get elastic from the sewing section. You could possibly even use like a hairband if that's what you've got, and make a lark's head knot up here. But what I am going to do is cut a fairly good length of this elastic thread. I gotta find some scissors, like so. And I am going to, now I'm trying to decide if I do a lark's head knot on it, it would be a little bit more secure. Now, so you could either run it through like so, put one end and pull it up, or you could go ahead and do a lark's head. I'm going to do a lark's head because it feels a bit more secure. So that means I'm going to bend it in half. I've met the two ends up here, and where the half is, I'm going to put that loop, if I can, through my loop, open this loop, and put the rest of that through there. So just like so. I'm going to adjust that, pull it tight. I am going to pre-stretch this a little bit. And down here at the end, I'm just going to do an overhand knot. So I'll wrap it around like so, pull that through, and then pull it tight. Now I can trim off some of that excess. I'm going to make sure it is nice and tight. And then I have this stretchy bit that I can fit over my car rear view mirror. I'm super excited about this, y'all. Look, that was super quick, wasn't it? And I have now this super sparkly, beautiful thing. I could make it a little more. I could change it up for the seasons. I could do all kinds of things. So I'm going to go get some pictures of this. This is my contribution, like I said, for week 9 of the Jessie James Bead Summer Bead Blast, which is out of the jewelry box. I encourage you to play along. It's only week 9. We've still got, I can't even do the math right now. So we've got 6 more weeks of this, and so that's plenty for you to go back and start over, or go ahead. If you want to know what that list is of the first 1 through 9 and you haven't seen it somewhere, let me know. I can do that, but I know I've got a couple videos before if you want to go look at those that had the 1 through 5, and I will have at the end of this the 6 through 10, so that for you to reference. So alright guys, I appreciate you coming and taking this time to watch and seeing me play and experiment with these Jessie James beads. Give me a thumbs up if you like this. Let me know if you have any questions. Make sure to subscribe, all that stuff, and I will see y'all later. Bye!